So, give me your thoughts on the Sam Altman keynote. You had a couple of posts after that. It wasn't quite Steve Jobs in terms of, and one more thing, but I mean, I remember going out of that keynote and being fairly like, oh my gosh, the world is changing as we know it. It felt a little bit like
Yeah.
that first iPhone.
Yeah, in some ways you're here like, wow, what is the next one going to be like when he gets further down his road? I remember one of the take homes being a context window. And I was actually looking at this just the other day. Like you were talking about earlier, having all your transcripts, right? You got to put them in a file and upload them to GPT, those custom GPTs. If you can have a context window that's much larger, I think it's like 3,000 or 4,000 tokens currently, right? You're limited currently about how much in terms of medical history, as well as how much you can get out. So if you're trying to create a custom GPT to create fire, like synthetic fire, fire is so verbose, right? So many characters that you run out of context window. So I thought one of the big things would be, I think it was like 32,000 context window length, which would be about like the size of a novel. So then you might be able to put like a majority of the discharge summaries on a patient into the actual prompt itself and be like, hey, like what summarize the entirety of all the discharge instructions. I just feel like I'm always coming up against context window and like how big you can actually, how
Right.
much you can actually give it and how much it'll give you back.
We really are at the beginning of this. It does feel like that first iPhone. I have the first iPhone box behind me. Do you remember how small this thing was? I look at it now and I think, man, that was small. But I think the other thing we forget about it was there was no app store
Yeah,
on this
it's
original thing.
whatever Apple would let you use and had made there.
What they envisioned was really everything would come through the internet, not an app store, was their vision. Now that changed in like version two. I think they came out with the app store and away they went. This feels a
Yeah.
little bit like that in terms of we're playing around with it. It's really amazing, but it's not quite there. And it's the same thing as holding this phone. You're like, wow, this is really powerful.